So I want to get a little bit real here, maybe a little bit personal, but I want to talk about some of the ways that moving to Florida, specifically Fort Lauderdale, has changed my life over the last 4.5 years. Maybe some good, maybe some bad. Let's talk about it. All right, so for those of you that are new here or maybe just don't know my story, I'm gonna give you the quick version. I was born and raised in New Jersey, spent a little bit of time out in Denver, Colorado before moving back to Jersey. Around 2017, I decided to get my real estate license in New Jersey, and let's fast forward to December of 2018. So I'm visiting Florida, I'm visiting a couple of friends. It's my birthday, and I just remember the whole time I was out here, I did not want to go home. I did not want to go back to Jersey. And I mean, rightfully so. It was December. You know, it was probably 20 or 30 degrees up in Jersey, and it was in the 70s and 80s down here in Florida. So I just kept thinking to myself, you know, I would do anything to just live down here. And so it was my last night here. I was out to dinner with a couple of friends, and I said it again. I was like, I wish I can just pick up and just move down here or not go home. I would stay down here, whatever. And I remember him saying to me, vividly remember the conversation. And he said, well, you already have your real estate license up in Jersey. You don't really have anything holding you back. Why don't you just get your license down here and move down here? You can stay with me for a couple months. It didn't take much convincing. I pretty much decided that night that I was moving to Florida. Yes, it was an impulsive decision. I called my parents the next day and pretty much told them, like, I think I'm gonna move to Florida. And I don't think they really took me seriously until I got back to Jersey and ordered the Florida real estate broker's license course. And it was delivered to me the day after Christmas. I passed the course in 2 weeks, passed the state exam on March 5th, and by March 29th, I was living in Florida. And so just to speak on a couple things or a couple ways that my life has changed since I moved down here, and this is just very specific to me because I obviously can't tell you how your life's gonna change, but one of the first things was I became very active and I became very healthy. Florida is a very active, outdoor type of lifestyle. And so I'm gonna pop a picture up on the screen. This was actually me the first day that I moved down to Florida. And it's kind of funny because, you know, me and my friend drove from Jersey 19 hours straight without stopping. We got to Florida about 9 a.m., slept for a couple hours, and went straight to Ultra Music Festival, which is where that picture was from. I promise things have changed since then. I don't do stuff like that anymore. But I was about 270 pounds in that picture. I mean, I'll pop it up again. You can see that shirt, that jersey was fighting for its life on my stomach. And fast forward to late last year, I'm gonna pop up another picture. This was me at 200 pounds. So huge accomplishment. I definitely contributed a lot of it to the healthy, active lifestyle here. And, you know, it's just wanting to be outside all the time. The weather's beautiful. I mean, it only makes sense. But at the beginning, it was definitely driven off of vanity. I mean, it's South Florida, you know, the Miami lifestyle. Everybody's good looking, everybody's tan, everybody has money. So I definitely was driven off of vanity in the beginning. But as time progressed, it became more about my health. And I just realized that I like being outdoors and doing this stuff. I mean, all the time down here, even in the rain, you see people, tons of people walking their dogs, just walking to the store, skateboarding, riding their bike, rollerblading, yoga on the beach, outdoor gyms, outdoor volleyball courts, tons of parks out here. I mean, it just makes sense. So that was probably at the top of one of my biggest life changers. I had always been a yo-yo dieter. my entire life, but I have never made a change like I did when I moved down here. And speaking of just wanting to be outdoors all the time, I did when I first moved down here. And, to the point where I would work outside with my computer and my computer would overheat. But I always wanted to be outside and just get the sun, get the vitamin D. And that brings me to the next thing that really changed for me. And it was just that I was always in a better mood, waking up in a better mood. All throughout my day, I was in a better mood. And for those of you watching that live in, New Jersey, Philadelphia, New York City, Boston, any of these older Northeast cities that are very fast-paced, very old, very gray, very depressing sometimes, you can probably understand where I'm coming from about, being very stressed out living in those areas, and then coming down here where you're surrounded by water. The weather is beautiful pretty much all year long. The landscaping is nice to look at. The palm trees, it's very green, just the vitamin D from the sun, just all these things definitely contribute to just being in a better mood. And the fact that it's a little bit of a slower paced lifestyle. And another cool thing is that there's no seasonal depression down here. So that definitely helped. We really only have 2 seasons down here, hot and hotter. And, maybe a couple weeks in the winter where it gets a little bit cold, like in the 50s and then sometimes in the 40s. But there's no seasonal depression out here. Now, the one downside to that is that without seasons, you don't really have a sense of time. So it's September 30th right now. And I'm sure I'm assuming in the rest of the country, a majority of the country, it's starting to get cold if it's not cold already. And it's not cold here. It's still hot. It's still in the mid 80s. And so you don't really have a sense of time down here. I mean, Christmas time, the holiday season, New Year's, when, I was in Jersey and it was snowing 30 degrees. Down here, it's in the 70s. It's just kind of weird how the year just feels like one long summer. It's a small price to pay. I mean, I kind of do miss the seasons, but I'm getting a little bit off topic now. The main point was that moving down here, I just found myself to be in a better mood. But that doesn't mean that lasted for very long. My first couple months out here, I definitely had my fair share of fun before I started taking work a little more seriously. And then reality hit, starting a business from scratch in a brand new place. I had to become mentally strong. And I think this is something that probably applies to not only Florida, but if you're moving out of state anywhere, especially starting a business, even if you're not starting a business, it's just something new, something unknown to you. And it can be a little scary. I didn't have that comfort level of being in a familiar environment surrounded by the things I knew. I pretty much moved down here with a toothbrush, some clothes, and a pillow. I left my friends behind. I left my family behind until my parents decided to move down here in late 2019. But at that point, I really had to get out of my comfort zone to just even have a chance to survive down here. And if I didn't get out of my comfort zone, you wouldn't be seeing me on your screen right now making these videos, which does give me the opportunity to remind you that I am a realtor here in Florida, which you already knew probably. And just as much as I love making these videos, I love more to help you with your real estate needs. So I'm going to leave my number and email on the screen. If there's anything I can do to help you, please feel free to reach out at any time. And so speaking of real estate, as you may or may not know, you don't just get into real estate and people throw houses at you and say, sell my house. And that's not how it works, especially me coming to a brand new city where I only knew 2 people and those 2 people happen to be realtors. So that didn't really benefit me. But it took me a while to gain some momentum. I would say it took me a good 8 months without even making a sale to just start gaining a little bit of momentum. And you know what happened at that 8-month mark? March of 2020. We all know what happened there. And so during that 2-week period where everything was shut down. Real estate was at a standstill for about 2 weeks. All that momentum I had completely went down the drain. And so I had to do what I had to do to make ends meet at that time. I was, finally living in my own apartment. I had no furniture. I had an air mattress, which I actually had 3 of them because they kept popping. That was the only furniture I had, but I had to do what I had to do. And so work can be hard to find down here in Florida, which I have spoken about in other videos. So I wound up driving Uber, Lyft, Uber Eats, all while still building my real estate business full time. So I was working 7 days a week. And at the time I had to sacrifice a lot and just really work on my self-discipline. But that's because I took a risk. Even though I had a plan, my plan didn't go the way that I was hoping it would go right off the bat. And some of you that reach out to me, you really remind me of my December 2018 self who impulsively moved down here. And some of you reach out to me because you're excited and you want to experience something new and get out of your hometown, but you may lack a little bit of direction. And I'm not speaking to everybody, but you may lack a little bit of direction. And that's okay. That's why I make these videos for you. But you need to have a plan. Making this move can be either one of the best decisions you ever made or one of the worst decisions you ever made. And it all depends on how you approach it. So those are just a couple of ways that my life really changed moving down here. Now, how's yours gonna change? Well, I can't individually tell each of you how your life's gonna change. But like I said, moving down here can either be the best or worst decision of your life, just depending on how you approach it. And one thing that I realized about South Florida, especially this area, the Fort Lauderdale area, because it's growing so much, the amount of growth I've seen here in 4.5 years is completely insane. There's so much opportunity in this area right now that you can walk into a gym, a restaurant, a random store, and meet a complete stranger, the right person who can change your life forever. And so if I can give you just one piece of advice from this video to take with you, it's have a plan. And when that time is right, or if you feel like you're lacking a plan, or you just don't have that sense of direction, I'd love for you to reach out to me, and I'd love to help you in any way that I can. Okay, I'm inspiring myself now, so I gotta get out of here.